Now, the element of choice is a fascinating beast in video games, whereby a player's most minor decisions can end up having a major impact on the overall gameplay and especially the story. And in some rare cases, a small decision can end up negatively affecting your experience with the game one way or another, and that's what we're here to talk about. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game decisions that ruined your entire playthrough. Number 10. Stealing from the town tool shop. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening will basically brand you with a scarlet letter if you deign to commit thievery. Now, if you manage to steal an item from the village town tool shop, a message will pop up reminding you that you've got a 5-finger discount before then asking, "Are you proud of yourself?" But you know what? That's just the start. Link will also be renamed to Thief for the entire rest of your playthrough, with basically every NPC calling you it, ensuring that you're constantly reminded of your misdeeds. Short of reverting to a prior save, you're stuck with that digital shame, and if you're brazen enough to then try and revisit the store for some more goodies, the shopkeeper will kill you with a blast of lightning that'd make Emperor Palpatine himself blush. If Nintendo wanted to make sure you knew the ills of theft, then this was certainly an effective and memorable way to do it. Number 9. Leaving the fire extinguisher in the security box. Resident Evil: Code Veronica. Resident Evil Code Veronica has a nasty trick in store for players who dare to leave the empty fire extinguisher in the security box at Rockfort Prison. Basically, because the security box isn't an item box, which would allow you to access its contents at any other item box in the game, the fire extinguisher will be left at the prison once you depart. And so, once you reach the Antarctic base, this locks you out of accessing the game's most powerful weapon, the Magnum, because you needed the fire extinguisher in order to put out a fire and access the room where it is. Though this doesn't stop you from beating the game, it does make the later bosses feel a good deal tougher, especially for less experienced players. While the Magnum only has a small handful of bullets, its mighty stopping power against the final boss in particular a good deal easier. Number 8. Killing the end early. Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater. Now, ruined might be a touch dramatic here, but in the case of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, this action certainly ends up robbing you of one of the best boss battles in the entire game, if not the series as a whole. Once you reach the warehouse earlier on in the title, you'll see a cutscene where the legendary sniper at the end can be seen asleep in a wheelchair. And once the cutscene ends, there's a brief seconds-long window where you can actually shoot him dead with your sniper rifle before he's wheeled away. Because this kills the end prematurely, it means you won't get to fight him later on, in turn depriving you of an incredible, if grueling, boss battle that's arguably one of the most ingenious and creative in the medium's history. Instead, you'll get a decidedly more standard battle against the Ocelot unit, and once you know what you've missed, well, FOMO will probably compel you to start the game all over again and experience it for yourself. Number 7. Giving yourself low physique stats. Disco Elysium. As with just about any RPG, one of the most important decisions you can make in Disco Elysium is your allocation of skill points into the 4 skill categories of intellect, psyche, physique, and motorics. But you can objectively make a grave mistake early on in the game if you fail to prioritize physique stats at all. This can result in you dying of a heart attack while attempting the basic opening feat of grabbing your tie from a ceiling fan and trying to put it on, or later in the game, just sitting down in a damn chair. If you went too far in prioritizing mental skills over physical ones, you're guaranteed to have a bad time from the jump, enough so that you might even be compelled to re-roll your character. If dying while getting dressed won't convince you to start again, well, there's probably nothing that will. Number 6. Picking yellow. Devil May Cry 3: Dante's Awakening. Devil May Cry 3 Dante's Awakening is without question the most challenging game in the character action franchise, and you can make it even more of a pain for yourself depending on the vague options that you select at the very start of the game. You see, upon starting a new game, you'll be asked to pick a color, gold or yellow, without any additional context whatsoever. As it turns out, you're actually choosing between gold and yellow orbs. Gold allows you to resume gameplay after death in the exact spot where you died, and even if you're out of orbs, you can continue from the last checkpoint. Yellow, meanwhile, lets you continue from the last checkpoint with your limited number of orbs, but once you run out of them, you'll have to start the level from the very beginning upon dying. Basically, the context void option has a 50-50 chance of making the game considerably tougher and way more time-consuming for you, unless you looked up the choice before committing. Number 5. Harvesting 2 Little Sisters. BioShock. Throughout BioShock, you're given two choices for dealing with any of the little sisters you come across. You can harvest them for the precious substance Adam, in turn allowing you to obtain plasmids and new abilities faster, but it comes at the cost of their lives, or you can rescue them and set them free, which is clearly the more humane and ethical of the two choices, given that the little sisters have suffered enough already, being enslaved orphan girls and all. But while the game will let you get away with harvesting one little sister scot-free, if you harvest two or more, you'll end up locking yourself out of the game's happiest ending, where Jack takes the little sisters back to the surface and adopts a bunch of them, which is very sweet, isn't it? Instead, you'll get a miserable ending where Jack harvests the little sisters for their Adam, and the more of them you harvested throughout the game, the more bitterly disappointed Tenenbaum's closing narration will be. Cheers. Number 4. Not picking up the junk mail. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Time for a majorly deep cut now, and you know I love these, especially seeing I've got an entire series of these over on FGS, with 1984's text-adventure game based on The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In the opening moments, you'll end up on the front porch of your home, where the game will then mention that the doormat has a pile of junk mail on it. From here, you can decide to pick up the mail or ignore it, and doing the latter will have dire consequences for the rest of the story. As it turns out, you need the junk mail letter in the story to complete the tricky Babelfish puzzle on the alien ship to continue progressing through the game. Without it, you're effectively soft-locked out of beating the game, unable to move forward, and are forced to restart from the very beginning. This is the sort of cruel nonsense developers simply wouldn't get away with these days, but back in the heyday of text adventures, these harsh soft locks, they were infuriatingly common. Number 3. Reading the tablet twice. La Mulana. Platform adventure game La Mulana will mockingly flip the bird at players who don't heed its admittedly pretty crystal clear warning. When you reach the mausoleum of the giants, you'll eventually find a tablet which warns, "Thou art forbidden from again laying eyes on this marker. Those who heed not this warning will suffer the pain of death." Now, the language couldn't be much clearer, right? Except if you assume that the game is just employing a little reverse psychology and the tablet is actually hiding a secret, well, you'd be oh so wrong. Because if you read the tablet again, you'll inadvertently activate the game's hard difficulty, which will result in enemies becoming faster, more powerful, and more abundant throughout its remainder. Also, every boss in the game becomes considerably more challenging. Worse still, in the original version, there was no way to reverse the difficulty change beyond reverting to a prior save, or failing that, restarting the game from scratch. Thankfully though, the more recent Nintendo Switch re-release introduced an option to undo the difficulty change by talking to the Fairy Queen. Phew. Number 2. Skipping dialogue, Final Fantasy X-2. In the case of Final Fantasy X-2, Square Enix seemingly designed this game to be as obnoxiously infuriating for completionists as possible, given the utterly maddening requirements for hitting 100%. In addition to having to see everything the main story has to offer, you're also unable to skip certain dialogues, namely those you have to have with the infuriatingly verbose historian of Spira, Michin. Given that they ramble on and on and on at a snooze-inducing length, you'll likely be tempted to skim through his word vomit or even just skip it entirely, but in a brutal act of trolling on Square Enix's part, doing so will lock you out of 100% of this run-through of the game. Basically, unless you're content with using a guide to make sure you don't miss anything, you probably shouldn't even bother with a completionist run, well, unless your sanity has no value to you. But for everyone else out there, your time is, or at least definitely should be, worth way more than this. And number 1, not saving President Myers right away. Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty expansion evidently doesn't suffer dawdlers lightly, as those who take their time rescuing President Myers at the very start of the game will basically end up accidentally nuking their playthrough. If you take too long to make the save, afterwards Myers' aircraft is hacked and crashes into the district of Dogtown, where Songbird will then inform you that Myers has been killed, and to rub salt in the wound, she'll blame you for your negligence and then shut you down remotely. When you wake up, Johnny Silverhand will suggest you both go and grab some drinks, and while you can still complete side missions throughout Dogtown, you'll be firmly locked out of playing the rest of the main story. As a result, you'll need to restart the game and actually rescue Myers this time if you want to access the meat of Phantom Liberty's campaign, which, trust me, you definitely want. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 video game decisions that ruined your entire playthrough. I hope you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on X and Instagram, where it's @RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're treating yourself with that love and respect, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.